Hello, this is Mrs. Smekens, and we're going to continue learning about making inferences. Say it, inferences. And an inference is when you collect details and put them together to figure out what they mean and come up with a brand new idea. An inference is big, and an inference is bigger than just having a thought. We've learned about reading voice, thinking voice, reading voice, thinking voice, and the idea that you can see a detail in the text and have a thought. And as you're reading, see something else and have a thought. But an inference needs the reading voice and thinking voice. But remember, in the previous lesson, we talked about you need multiple details, not just one detail and have a thought, multiple details that cause you to have a bigger thought. And that's how you come up with an inference. And an inference is a new idea, something the author never said, but you figured it out. Well, I've added a few things to our chart. I've added this book, okay, which represents text, because you don't make an inference without having read something first. But we know from the previous lesson, text could be photos, right? Remember, we looked closely and gathered the detailed clues, and we figured out this, and what was happening in the photo. Okay, but text can also be words and sentences. So details can be from visuals or from sentences. Okay, so I've added that. I've also added this giant head in the middle of our chart. Yeah, that comes from one of my favorite teacher friends, Mrs. Linder. And she had this idea that to teach kids how to make an inference, we need to get them to put the details from the text, the details, the clues the author gives them, put them on the outside of the head, because you didn't think of those. You just went and got them. They're outside your head. They're in the text. Just go get them and put them outside the head. But then you've got to put them together. You've got to think about them. And that thinking comes inside the head. And that's what's going to get you to the inference. Let me put a few things up here. So what I'm saying is you're going to read a passage. And when you finish reading, you're going to wonder the answer to the question. And so you're going to go back into the text and you're going to collect details. This word, maybe this phrase, maybe that'll help you. Remember, they're just clues. Authors give us clues. They never tell us the answer. They expect that we're going to do some of the work, do some of the thinking, make the inference. So you collect the details. But then what you need to do in order to do the thinking inside the head is to put clues together. See, when you get closer to an inference, it's because you saw this detail and you say, well, this and this, I see those two things, and these go together because, in my mind, these go together because, and what you're doing is you're seeing a pattern. Well, this and this, and they go together because, and you start to see a pattern in the details. Or you might see a detail and another detail and another detail, and you say, okay, this has me thinking that this is reminding me of, and so your thinking voice, you see how these are yellow, right? Because this is thinking voice. Your thinking voice is saying, hey, your memories might help you. This reminds me of, this is like what, this makes me think about, I know a little bit about this in my memory, in my background knowledge. I know a little bit about this. These clues, not only are they clues, but these clues go together. It makes me think that the answer could be, these go together because sometimes your thinking voice sees a couple clues. Maybe it was this clue, and I'll move this one over here, and says, okay, wait a minute. When this and this happen, then usually so does, and you have a thought. When this and this happen, so that when you have this and this, then you usually have, and again, you're starting to see kind of these groupings And so when you start to see things that go together, sometimes it's a pattern. Sometimes they go together because in your memory, you remember something you know about. Sometimes they go together because in your mind, they're related, they're connected. Well, when you have this and this, then it usually means then so does, and you start to put things together. Do you see how all that's inside the head? That's what Mrs. Linder taught me. She said, make sure your thinking is inside the head because that's where the thinking happens. All right? You collect the details. The author gave you clues, but you can't just collect clues and bam, have the answer. No. You got to collect the clues, then you have to think about them. You've got to group them and think about them. Group them and think about them. Because then you look just in the middle at your thoughts. Well, if I'm thinking this, and if I'm thinking this, and I'm thinking this, then I think the answer is, and that's the inference. And I'm going to put it way down here in the neck. Do you see how we work outside? We collect our details, we put them together to get to the answer. That's how readers do it. Collect clues, put them together, think about them to come up with a brand new idea. Okay, you guys, I want to show you how this works. I'm going to show you how this works, and I'm going to put up a passage, but first, I got to have somewhere to put all of my thinking, all right, all of my thoughts. So I got a giant head on this chart. Okay, let me pull up my passage and get my green sticky notes. Why? Because green means text details. And so I'm going to read this passage, and after I read it, I'm going to collect text clues, details that might help me think to get to the inference. All right? So here we go. Look at your screen and follow along. First, they put on special gear. They enter a dark room and begin hiding, watching for others. They know they have to stay within certain boundaries. Red beams of light flash and players' vests vibrate. If this happens too often for one player, he is eliminated. Okay, so I read. Okay, now here's what I'm trying to figure out. What are they doing? Okay, well, the author never told me what they're doing. I need to figure that out. Okay, authors give you clues. We got to figure it out. Okay, watch how I do this. Well, the first thing I want to do is collect any detail that might help me. So details are words. So I'm just going to reread and listen to how I do this. Okay, first they put on special gear. Well, whatever they're doing, it needs special gear. So I'm going to write down special gear. Okay, got it. Here we go. So I write down special gear, and they enter a dark room and begin hiding. All right, dark room, got it. All right, hiding. Whatever they're doing, they're in a dark room and they're hiding while they do it. All right, got it. Now I'm putting on the outside because green details are outside. I didn't do any thinking. I'm just pulling words the author gave me. All right, they know they have to stay within certain boundaries. All right, I'll write the word boundaries down. Got it. Okay. Red beams of light. Well, whatever they're doing, they're using some kind of light that flashes in red beams. Okay, I'm going to write down red beams light. Okay, and so we don't write sentences. We're just collecting keywords and phrases, just details. Okay, players' vests vibrate. They're wearing vests. All right, vest vibrate. Got it. Okay. If this happens too often for one player, he is eliminated. Ooh, player. It tells me a little bit about who is doing whatever the what is. A player, and he might be eliminated. Got it. Okay, so now, watch what I'm doing. Okay, so I got all my details on the outside of the head. Now I do the hard work of putting them together. How do I do this? I'm looking for things that go together because they're related, or my background, my memories are reminding me of things, or maybe I'm seeing some patterns. So listen to how I do this, okay? So I see player and eliminated, and I definitely think that plus boundaries. What do you do where you have players? Well, they're playing something because there's players. So it tells me, and eliminated. So that's like you're out. So like you won, you lost, you're out, and bound. I'm thinking it's a game. I'm thinking those all go together because they're all part of playing some kind of a game. So I think they're doing some kind of a game. Now that's my thinking. My thinking grouped those and came up with it. So it's on a yellow sticky note and it goes inside. So I'm labeling that grouping. Okay, so they have some special gear, and part of what they're wearing has a vibrating vest. Well, it's a special game. It's a unique game. It's not a game. I've never worn a vibrating vest for any game I've ever played. I don't think this is a card game. I don't think this is a board game. I think this is a different kind of game. This is a really unique, special game. I'm going to write down special game, but you know what else I'm going to write down? I'm going to write down not a card game. It's not a board game. Sometimes your thinking voice helps you get closer to the inference by telling you what it knows it's not. So it's not cards and it's not a board game. It's something very special. Got it. Okay. And this game is played in a dark room where you're hiding. Well, I'm thinking hide and seek, but that's not really all that special. It's all that, it doesn't have a vest, but it's some kind of game where they're trying to win or lose and they're hiding from each other. Okay. I'm not really having a thought, but I see this red beams of light, like straight lines, red beams, okay, straight line. It's red beams, like a laser, I suppose, like a laser beam, a straight line. Okay, a laser line, a straight line. Okay, I'll write that down. Okay, so now I make the inference. All right, now I'm looking to make the big inference. Mrs. Smekens lost her pink notes. There we go, because remember, inference is the pink one. Ba-bam. All right, watch how I do this. Now I look just at the yellow. So it's a game. It's a unique game. Definitely not cards, board game. It's not your typical game. And you wear a vest. It has a lot of special gear, and you have straight laser red beams. Laser tag. Is that what you were thinking? Yeah. Did you think of it a long time ago? Okay, well, here's the thing. Miss Smekens doesn't know much about laser tag, so she had to put all the clues together. Okay, so the inference, the answer, what are they doing? Playing laser tag, people. All right, help me with the next one. Help me with the next one. Here we go. We're going to change our screen, and before we look at it, let me take down these details. You know why we have to take down these details, right? Because the next passage we read is going to have totally different clues. So these aren't going to help us at all. So all of these we're done with. I'm taking all these off. And now we're going to start fresh because we have a new passage and we're going to make a new inference using new clues, new thoughts. All right, here we go. They all sit in a circle. One person begins passing out playing cards. Each person gets 7 cards. Everyone in the circle picks up the cards in front of them. They take turns going clockwise in a circle. Sometimes a player picks up several cards from the middle pile. Other times a player is skipped. And still other times the players change direction and play in a counterclockwise order. Okay, we've read the passage. Here's our question. Our question is, what game are they playing? Okay, well, hallelujah, we know we're playing a game. Okay, so we've got to start with the clues. What details might help us? If you think you already know the answer, hold on. Tell me first which words helped you figure out the answer. Which words? Find the words. Which words do you think are going to be most helpful? Are you thinking playing cards? Remember the last game, laser tag? We didn't have cards. We know this game has cards. So I'm writing down playing cards. All right. What else was super helpful for you to figure it out? Some of you have already figured it out. Some of you are like, I can figure it out. No problem. What details might help us? Okay, some of us are thinking 7 cards. Others are like, that's not going to help. You know what? We don't know if a detail is helpful or not. So if we think it might help us, we'll write it down. Because some games you only have 5 cards. Some games you have 12 cards. Some games you have half the deck. So you don't know that it's not helpful. So we'll write it down. Okay, let's see what else. How about this idea that at times a player is skipped? Okay, you thought that? Okay, so this isn't, so everybody has a turn? Well, no, evidently some people get skipped. Let's look. Sometimes players pick up several cards from the middle pile. We already know cards. We already have that as a detail. We have it twice. 7 cards and playing cards. But this game has a middle pile. Okay. Are there any other clues? Let's look at that last sentence. Look at the last sentence. And still other times the players change direction and play in a counterclockwise order. Remember in the middle there, it says they go in order and they go clockwise. Okay. Sometimes they skip people. But this last sentence says, and then they'll change directions and go the other way sometimes. Change directions? Okay, so let's start to look at these clues, you guys. Let's look at these clues. The green are clues. Those are details. And what details would you put together and why? Even if you think you know the answer. Which details go together? What are you thinking? And why? Why would you put those details together? What are you thinking? If we had that we have playing cards and everybody gets 7 cards, we know it's some kind of game with cards. So it makes you think of what games. What games have cards in them? Let's think about that. Okay, let's name some. What are you thinking? Are you thinking Old Maid? Okay, you thinking Goldfish? Okay, War. Okay, Uno. Okay, all right, we'll write those down. All right, so do you see how that's yellow? Because I'm saying, okay, well, I'm thinking about games that have playing cards. Got it. This game has playing cards in a middle pile. And so what games have a middle pile? Well, War has a middle pile, right? And we're always drawing. And Goldfish does, okay? And so this idea of what games might have a middle pile, but the game also skips people. Everybody doesn't get a turn in this game. What does it mean if you change directions? Going one way and then you switch. You switch directions, you reverse. What game has cards where you switch or reverse directions and sometimes skip people's turns? And people have to draw cards from middle pile. Put the clues together, you guys. Put them together. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Uno. How many of you thought that right from the beginning? You were like, it's Uno, Mrs. Smekens. Yes. But here's what I love is that even if you knew it was Uno right from the beginning, you still were able to tell me what clues were helpful. And maybe you thought of other green clues that I didn't write down and I should have. Maybe you had some more in the middle of the head thoughts. But this idea of collecting details, grouping them, putting them together to come up with an answer. What's the answer called? What are we learning to do? Make inferences. Yes. All right, class. This is what I would have you do if you were in Mrs. Smekens' room. I have a small head for you, and you can print it out or you can put up a piece of paper and trace it, because I have 3 more passages. So I want you to either print this 3 times or trace this 3 times, 3 sheets of paper, because I want you then to read this passage and figure out why the boy is crying. Collect the details, put them together to come up with why is he crying. Then I want you to read this passage, collect the clues, put them together. Why wasn't his name checked off? And third, collect the clues, put them together. Where are these people? What is the setting that they're in? So you've got 3 passages, you need 3 heads, and I want you to just write down the clues, start to put them together, and see if you can't come up with the 3 inferences. If you were in Mrs. Smekens' class, that's what we'd be doing, but your teacher might have a better idea.